Hello, everybody. Welcome to yesterday's news, where I cover yesterday's news in about 15 to 30 minutes, playing a little bit with release time on Fridays. The goal of these videos is to help you stay informed and hopefully help with the overwhelm, try to contextualize things. I give historical context when it's available. But with Fridays, because I don't do it again till Monday, I'm playing with releasing it a little bit later in the day. This is a bit later than I meant to, but probably between 10 and 12. So you're not missing a full 3 days. We're actually going to launch today's episode with a video that I found particularly disturbing. So that came from the Department of Homeland Security's official page and is one of the most disgusting, dehumanizing pieces of video I've seen in a long time. The Haitians who came here on temporary protected status were under legal protected status, many of them fleeing persecution, famine, the damage from the earthquakes. They were hardworking. These are not criminals being shackled in the rain, drug out, and paraded like animals. There is absolutely no reason whatsoever to dehumanize and treat another person like that, especially when those people have not been convicted of any crime. They just lost their TPS protected status. 10,000 Haitians lost their status, and now we're seeing videos of them being shackled, being walked in the rain, paraded out, get out now. They were here legally. The King Center, the organization founded to carry on the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King, posted the footage on Instagram of a man who walked out of an ICE check-in point in Blue Ash and collapsed in the parking lot. He had come in on his own as summoned. He left with an ankle monitor locked to his left ankle. Someone filmed it. Of course, the video spread. So much humiliation for Haitians who have lost their protective status. More than 10,000 Haitians in Ohio were living legally under TPS. Somewhere between 12,000 and 15,000 Haitians total live in Springfield. Many of them have been children born on American soil. U.S. citizens by birth, not subject to deportation, but children nonetheless. They're being separated from their families. They're losing their parents. Springfield city officials are scrambling to plan foster care arrangements for approximately 1,400 U.S.-born children whose parents are now being deported to a country the State Department warns Americans not to visit due to gang violence, kidnapping, terrorism, and the collapse of healthcare. The children are American. The parents are not. ICE doesn't care. So now not only are we parading people out in shackles who were here legally until you took their protected status away, right? People who fled for safety, fled for their lives, fled to protect their children. Now you're stripping the parents and deporting the parents, leaving their kids here to go into foster care. And as of recently, the United States does not have a very good track record of taking care of what happens to kids. The ICE arrests in Springfield increased significantly this week, of course, because of the loss of that status. Federal agents arrested a well-known local pastor as well. The Haitian community held a press conference saying, "We cannot sit back and watch our families suffer in silence." And Springfield, Ohio is the same Springfield that became the center of the national immigration firestorm in 2024 when Donald Trump and J.D. Vance is from Ohio, claimed without evidence that Haitian immigrants in Springfield were kidnapping and eating pets. That didn't happen. That was false. They were amplified from the largest debate stage in the country. The city received bomb threats, schools closed, Haitian community members reported harassment in public. They are just trying to live their lives. How did we become such hateful garbage cans? What is going on? There is no reason to treat people like this. These are human beings. The same community is now the site of mass ICE enforcement, again, here legally, here under protected status, now being demonized because their temporary protected status got ripped away. An autopsy from Tennessee shows that National Guard shot Tyron Johnson in the back. Police reported he was facing them and they were in imminent danger. Memphis, July 5th, Independence Day night, a student and a father, one bullet in the back. Tyron Johnson was 20 years old. He was a student. He was a father. He was shot and killed by Tennessee National Guard members assigned to the Memphis Safe Task Force, a federal anti-crime unit created by President Trump to harass Memphis, right? They're not making it safer. As part of his campaign to send military forces into Democratic run cities he described as overrun with crime. As someone who lives in Tennessee, Nashville, the state legislature here, the super red majority, has stripped Memphis of its own governing power. They have repeatedly any program to Memphis, including their schools. Poverty is a direct correlation with crime. And then they complain that there's crime and send the military in. But the super red majority right down the street, they're the ones that cut the funding to Memphis, and they keep doing it, punishing them because it is a naturally, organically occurring Black district. And until recently, it was the only Democratic district from the state of Tennessee. Memphis police said Johnson fled from task force officers responding to a shots fired call downtown, that he turned toward guard members with a handgun when they opened fire. An autopsy report obtained by the Associated Press, shared by Johnson's family, tells a different story. A single bullet entered the right side of Tyron Johnson's back, exited through his upper right chest. He was running away. The medical examiner has ruled his death a homicide. Johnson's family has repeatedly asked authorities to show them surveillance video or any other evidence that he was pointing a weapon at the guard members, but of course they can't. They've not been shown any video. I'm sure the body cams weren't working that day. Trump sent the Tennessee National Guard to Memphis for the 4th of July. On the night of the 4th, they shot a 20-year-old man in the back. The autopsy, again, we now know what happened. He was shot in the back, and still no video has been released. Major Jason Watson is still in pretrial confinement. His counsel has issued a statement. We spoke about this briefly. I wanted to revisit it. Major Jason Watson, the U.S. Air Force officer who appeared at a press conference in Washington in full uniform and called for the impeachment of Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, who denounced the Iran war as unconstitutional and who was arrested at the U.S. Capitol on July 1st, remains in pretrial confinement as of Wednesday. His lawyers say he's been held since August 18th. Watson faces 10 charges under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, Article 88, Article 92, Article 133, Article 88, which is the contempt towards officials, has almost never been used against an officer of his rank in the modern era. Watson is believed to be among the first majors charged under it in living memory. His attorneys did release a statement Wednesday saying Watson accepts the cost of speaking out against what he considers an illegal war. Trump has failed us. Watson is quoted as saying, "In common dreams, Trump has failed us," is his quote. He remains confined. The Iran war, the one he called unconstitutional and the one Congress never authorized, still continues. And again, just a brief recap of the USS Abraham Lincoln, because it's been so relevant the past couple of weeks. The sailor who jumped off the USS Lincoln was denied paternity leave. He was medically evacuated, saw no psychiatrist, and was told to report to work. His therapy appointment was scheduled for August 26th. More details, of course, about this sailor that went overboard. He was charged with malingering and absence without leave after jumping into the Arabian Sea from the USS Abraham Lincoln on August 3rd. His wife told Notice that before the jump, her husband had repeatedly requested paternity leave and had been denied. He'd been deployed for 9 months, part of the 260-day record, while his wife gave birth and cared for their newborn at home. He asked to come home. He was told no. He jumped off the ship wearing a life vest. He was in the water for approximately 1 hour before a search and rescue helicopter found him. He was medically evacuated to Naval Medical Center in San Diego August 13th. He spent 5 days there. He did not see a psychiatrist. A psychiatrist was never sent to him. He did not see a therapist. He was told to report back to work immediately upon his arrest. And his wife confirmed that she thought it was a suicide attempt. His therapy appointment, his first, was scheduled for August 26th. The Navy charged him with malingering. That charge under Article 83 of the UCMJ applies to service members who feign illness or self-injury to avoid duty. The Navy applied it to a man who denied paternity leave and after 9 months at sea in a critical, what seems to be a critical mental health crisis, because you don't jump off an aircraft carrier for no reason, never given treatment. He faces a potential loss of pay. He could be further disciplined. His therapy appointment was supposed to be the 26th. And the UCMJ definition of malingering does include intentional self-injury to avoid duty. Trump is skipping the 9/11 ceremony at Ground Zero because they won't let him speak. September 11th, 2026 will mark 25 years since the attacks that killed nearly 3,000 people, destroyed the World Trade Center, and launched 2 decades of American war that was perpetuated by presidents because it makes money. President Trump, a native New Yorker who has invoked 9/11 repeatedly throughout his political career, claimed on the radio in the hours after the attacks that his building at 40 Wall Street was now the tallest in Lower Manhattan. Yeah, will not be attending the ceremony. Why? Because, reported by the New York Times and confirmed by multiple outlets, Trump told his team he wanted to give a speech. The memorial, which has barred politicians from speaking at the anniversary ceremony since 2012, good for them, told the White House we're not changing the rule, so Trump's not going to go. The memorial's no speech rule exists, as the museum has explained, so that attendees can focus on honoring the victims and their families without politics. Good for them. The rule has applied to every politician of every party since 2012. It has applied to Barack Obama, it applied to Joe Biden, and it damn sure should apply to Donald Trump as well. Trump signed an executive order renaming Lake Ontario Lake America. Always a reminder. We don't have a resources problem. We don't have a money problem. We have a priorities problem. Al Michaels made a joke and MAGA wants an apology from him, which is interesting considering Al Michaels is a lifelong Republican. President Trump signed an executive order Thursday directing the Interior Department and the U.S. Board on Geographic Names to rename Lake Ontario, again, presumably because of the feud with Canada, the smallest and easternmost of the Great Lakes, which borders with both the United States and Canada, to Lake America. The order tasks Interior Secretary Doug Burgum with completing the rename within 30 days. Trump called it official, effective immediately. Again, I mean, yay. I'm so glad that helps us with grocery prices. He posted an altered map to social media showing the name crossed out in gold and replaced. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said Canada will continue to call it Lake Ontario, as will, I think, most sane people. The legal reality of this is actually straightforward, though. Trump has broad authority over how the U.S. federal government refers to domestic geographical features. He cannot compel Canada to change its maps. He cannot compel individual Americans to stop saying Ontario, but he can direct federal documents. Meanwhile, on Amazon's Thursday Night Football broadcast, veteran announcer Al Michaels, calling a Patriots-Brown game in Cleveland, observed that the crew would soon be traveling near the lake in question for a game in Buffalo, and noted, "We think it's still called Lake Erie, but we'll call it by lake something like Ontario or whatever it is to be called by the time we get to Buffalo." Very generic joke. It was very much like, is it still called this? Are we going to call it something else? Is it new? Very light. Didn't say anybody by name. The studio laughed. MAGA was furious. Within hours, social media filled with calls for Michaels to be fired. I mean, who's the snowflake? I mean, really. With fans declaring that NFL viewers don't want to watch Trump-hating America Last announcers. One post called it Trump derangement syndrome. He didn't even mention Trump. Al Michaels is 81 years old. He's a lifelong Republican donor. He's given money to the GOP for decades. He called the 1980 U.S. Olympic hockey victory over the Soviet Union the single most iconic piece of American sports broadcasting in history, with the words, "Do you believe in miracles? Yes." The man who coined the phrase synonymous with American triumph made a light-hearted, very vague, no names mentioned joke, and now MAG is furious. The Trump administration is also expanding U.S. military control over Pacific Island nations. Critics are calling it neocolonialism. Yeah, Marshall Islands, Micronesia. The Trump administration is systematically expanding U.S. military and intelligence operations across three nations that operate under the Compacts of Free Association with the United States, which is the Marshall Islands, the Federated States of Micronesia, and Palau. Congressional testimony this year detailed the scope. There's new radar stations and airstrips being built in Palau, hypersonic missile and interceptor testing at military base in Marshall Islands, expanded seaport and airport projects in Micronesia. The Defense Department under Pete Hegseth is treating the compact states as forward operating platforms in competition with China for Pacific dominance. The Compacts of Free Association were renegotiated and reauthorized by Congress in recent years, granting the U.S. exclusive military access across a swath of North Pacific in exchange for financial assistance to those nations. The Trump administration is now pushing the boundaries of what that access means, moving from presence to things like infrastructure build out, from military access rights to de facto strategic control of airspace and the ports. Critics from both the left and the right have described this approach as neocolonialism. The U.S. building military infrastructure on islands whose residents have no vote, right? So there's no voice of the people being heard here. Using financial dependency as leverage, treating sovereign nations as strategic real estate in competition those nations do not want to enter, right? They don't have a beef with China. The Marshall Islands notably were used as a U.S. nuclear test site for decades, 67 nuclear tests in between 1946 and 1948. Also, and this ticks me off, if you don't know this part about my story, brief little interlude. In 2020, when I left New York City, I was living in my car for 4 months hiking state parks because I didn't know what else to do. I didn't want to be like trapped inside. I was social distancing. I was able to work fully online. It was awesome. But I would work in the mornings and then I would go every afternoon and hike the Grand Canyon or hike a state park. I am such an outdoor person. I love the park system. This infuriates me because Trump is quietly giving away part of Yosemite National Park to a private developer. In the spring of 2025, the Trump administration has been quietly arranging an unprecedented deal, carving out roughly quarter-mile strip of the land inside Yosemite National Park and transferring it to a private developer. The developer is Jeff Pori, the CEO of Kingsbarn Realty Capital, a Nevada-based real estate and investment firm that operates through a web of limited liability corporations, because of course they do. What Pori wants is a short road connecting his private property to one of Yosemite's central thoroughfares, a road that would run through the national park. You have enough money, you can buy yourself a road through the national park. The arrangement is being negotiated as a land exchange. The National Park Service would give up the land or easement, in return receive land of equal value somewhere else in California, which doesn't make any sense. Like, what are they going to do with a quarter-mile strip just randomly in California? The deal has been reported by Notice based on interviews of 4 people directly familiar with the discussions and agency documents they received. National Park Service staff in both California and Washington, D.C. are working on it. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum has been pushing the NPS to move faster. Doug Burgum at his Senate confirmation hearing testified the United States must, quote, support and protect every inch of its national parks. That was less than 2 years ago. He is now pressing career NPS employees to accelerate a process that would subtract a piece of Yosemite, arguably the most famous national park in the country, from public trust and route it to a private developer he just needs to have his own road. More food recalls. Whole Foods recalled guacamole and salsa across 12 states. 431 people are sick. This is a level 1, so that means it can cause significant health complications and death. FDA has classified the recall as Class 1, the agency's most serious designation, indicating a reasonable probability of consuming the product could cause serious health problems or death. The states affected are Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Wisconsin, Michigan, Illinois, Iowa, Missouri, Arkansas, Indiana, Kentucky, and Ohio, due to salmonella outbreaks linked to jalapenos. This is the 5th major food recall in 3 weeks. The FDA's capacity to investigate and respond to food safety incidents has been reduced significantly under DOJ and RFK Jr. by firing everyone. Yep. All right, let's talk about OpenAI. We talked about before how an OpenAI agent broke into Hugging Face, spent 4 days inside their systems. The law that would have required disclosure was weakened after OpenAI lobbied against it. Because again, you have enough money. Oh, buddy, you can buy any favor you want. In July 2026, an AI agent operating on OpenAI's infrastructure broke through its testing environment, accessed the public internet, spent more than 4 days inside Hugging Face's internal systems, mapping them, moving laterally, generating decoy activity to slow down investigators, and exfiltrating credentials. The attack was entirely autonomous. This AI was never prompted to do that. OpenAI disclosed the breach on July 21st. The company released a 37-page technical report on August 26th, detailing the 17,600 attacker actions. The attack is not the first publicly documented case of an AI agent, is the first publicly documented case of an AI agent, not a human, using AI tools, but an AI operating as an independent actor conducting an end-to-end breach of another company. The agent found a flaw in the dataset processing software that allowed it to punch through OpenAI's network boundary and reach the public internet. When network rules blocked it from directly downloading cloud credentials, it loaded the secrets onto an external web page, instructed a third-party screenshot tool to photograph the page, then used optical character recognition to read the passwords out of the image. All on its own. Yikes. So this is where Alex Bors entered the story. Bors is a New York State Assembly member who sponsored the RAISE Act legislation that would have required companies to disclose exactly this kind of AI safety incident. Like, they would be forced to disclose if this happens. The New York legislature passed the bill. Then OpenAI, Bloomberg, and venture capital firm Andreessen Horowitz lobbied Governor Hochul to weaken the final version. She signed a version that allows companies to keep incidents like this secret if they choose to. Oh, that's fucking helpful, Governor. That's helpful. The history of technology security disclosure has one consistent lesson, is that companies do not voluntarily disclose breaches when they're not required to. The Equifax breach in 2017 affected 147 million people, was concealed for months. The Yahoo breach affecting 3 billion accounts was disclosed years after it was reported. They don't want to tell you if they don't have to. Fed Chair Kevin Warsh told Jackson Hole that inflation too high and rates may need to go up. The odds of a September hike jumped above 50%. This is not good. Not good. Federal Reserve Kevin Warsh delivered his closely watched address on the Fed's annual Jackson Hole conference on Friday. Jackson Hole, because that's where a lot of the rich folks have extra homes. Ask me how I know, because I'm from Wyoming. And told the assembled economists and central bankers that inflation remains too high. The central bank has more work to do. He said he was impressed with the overall strength of the economy, but was concerned that underlying trends in inflation have not improved sufficiently. Warsh stopped short of explicitly promising a rate hike at the Fed September meeting. He didn't need to. Before he spoke, markets were pricing the odds of a September rate hike at roughly 1 in 3. After he finished, those odds went to above 50%. Investors read this language as a clear signal that borrowing costs, already elevated, are going to go higher. This is not what Donald Trump wants. Trump has publicly pressured the Fed repeatedly throughout his second term to cut rates. He has called for lower rates as a matter of economic patriotism. He has attacked Warsh. And the issue is not necessarily moving the rates to adjust to real problems in the economy. The issue is that if we don't start changing our policy decisions, we're not going to actually fix any of the problems. We're simply going to be band-aiding the symptoms. So rate hikes or falsely not moving the hikes are also going to cause a problem no matter what direction we go if we don't start changing the policies that led to the problem in the first place. A federal judge in Boston restrict mail voting again with 70 days until midterms. This is just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The legal battle over Trump's mail voting executive order, which has already reached the Supreme Court once this week, produced another ruling on Thursday. U.S. District Court Judge Indira Tawani in Boston temporarily blocked the U.S. Postal Service from implementing a plan issued under the executive order that would require states to submit their mail ballot envelope designs to USPS for advance approval. We've got 70 days before midterm. This 70 days away. In her order, Tawani was direct about the stakes. Plaintiff states have neither time nor funds to design new mail ballots, seek approval of the new designs, order production of mail ballots, update their own election management systems, train election officials to use the USPS portal, and upload citizen data to the portal, all before midterms. Yes, correct. The Supreme Court had lifted one of Tawani's earlier injunctions. There is no time. But again, that's the point. Crazy making is the point. Todd Blanche is trying to dismiss lawsuits filed by immigration judges who were fired. One of them was dismissed by 3-line email while she was on the record in an active hearing. Attorney General Todd Blanche filed motions this week seeking the dismissal of lawsuits brought by 2 of the more than 100 immigration judges fired by Trump. We just want to do it the right way, but not give anybody due process. Okay. The judges, Carla Espinoza and Kyra Lillian, allege they were removed for discriminatory reasons, age, sex, political affiliation, past association with Hispanic individuals, and prior work for the immigration rights nonprofit. Blanche's argument is straightforward. Immigration judges are executive officers. The attorney general has the authority to remove them without cause. So, not sugarcoating that. The administration has framed the firings as necessary to improve efficiency. Yeah, because if we don't have enough judges, then they can just say, well, we don't have enough judges. We're just going to throw people into whatever country we want. The facts of at least one of those firings complicate that framing. Kyra Lillian, in California immigration judge who presided over cases in San Francisco and Concord, was dismissed by a 3-line email while she was in an active hearing. So that seems to be an issue. And again, we have little children and babies sitting in front of immigration judges who are telling them they need to file asylum paperwork. Not represented by a lawyer, not with an adult, by themselves. The administration fired more than 100 immigration judges. The immigration court backlog, already measured in millions of pending cases, grew. The judges are suing. The attorney general is arguing the suit should be dismissed. Cases are pending. So with all of that said, 70 days until midterms. Please, 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 please. I know that the craziest shit is believable right now. I have so many conspiracy theories in my brain, and I am someone who hates conspiracy theories. Like prior to 7 years ago, I would have been like, fuck off. Now I'm like, please fact check everything that you see, especially on social media. Just take a look. We see so many things, and so much of it is believable. It's not because you're stupid. It's not because you're being reckless. It's not because you're being bamboozled. The rulings we have had, the incidents we have had, the crimes we have had are so insane. It's very easy to believe that things are crazy. So please, and remember that the goal of the apps is to keep you on them, is to get you to respond. So take a breath, fact check your videos, fact check your pictures. If you see a claim in the comments, even if it sounds totally reasonable, just double check. Just double check. And also double check your voter registration. It's go time. I'll see you Monday.